Okay, gewaltig. So today is the year to the Arizal. When he was alive, he was not Arizal. You know that. He was playing Dari. That's right. He was playing Dari. And there's the Tosha Rebbe relates the following story. There was a bris in Tzfas, and the Ari was invited to come to the bris. I'm not sure if he was going to be a soundnik, but he was invited to come to the bris. And he came very late to the bris. And what happened is right before he walked into the bris, so he lived in the 1400s? Yeah, probably in the 1400s, or the 1500s he lived. So right before he walks into the bris, a big dog came storming into the shul or the house where the bris was. The dog storms into the kitchen and jumped into the big pot of food that was cooking for the Suda of the bris and died. Right after that happened, the Ari walked into the bris and he said, "You're wondering why I was late and why I coincidentally came after this dog jumped into the pot and spoiled everything. So I'll tell you what happened. I was on my way to the bris and I was going to be on time. This is like one of these knas stories in Scranton Yeshiva. I was on my way to the bris and I was going to be on time. And I encountered this dog. And this dog came over to me and said that I am Gechazi. And I never had a proper, my neshama never had a proper tikkun. And I need you to give me a tikkun for my neshama, that I should finally be able to get out of my torments." So the Ari said, the Baal Bris today has a very big enemy, like a Kamsa Bar Kamsa type of guy. He has a very big enemy, and he wanted to ruin the bris. And he, unbeknownst to anybody, poisoned an entire pot. So everybody who was going to eat by the Sudas HaBris will die from poison. If you give up your life and jump into the pot of cooking food and thereby spoiling the food so no one will eat it, but it's going to cost you your life, that will be a tikkun for your neshama. And that's exactly what happened. So now that happened, I can come. Had I come earlier, before the dog came, people could have died from eating poisonous food. So I waited till the dog fixed that problem, and now let's have the bris. And next time, call a caterer. You wouldn't believe it. And if it was told by anybody besides the Tosha Rebbe, I probably wouldn't believe it. The Tosha Rebbe says this story over. So what the Tosha Rebbe brings out from this story is something that you would totally not expect. Because if you do any Aveira, you're never going to get away with it. This guy thought he would poison the food and get away with it. He didn't get away with it. So whatever you're going to do is going to be discovered one day. You better do tshuva now. Okay. So we are up to this dramatic story where 1948. Yeah. We're on Daf Samach Ches Amud Beis. So we're in the middle of this dramatic story, right at the top of Samach Ches Amud Beis, where Ashmedoi was captured, and they're on their way to Shlomo HaMelech's palace to have a discussion with him to figure out how you find Shamir. Okay, thank you so much. Amud Beis, and we're the third line from the top, and we're on the third word on the line. Chaza. Chaza Samya. Right in the middle, right there. Chaza Samya, they encountered on their way to the palace a blind person. He didn't know where he was going. He was going in the wrong path. So Ashmedai was kind enough. He was a good Samaritan, and he pointed this blind person into the right direction. Then Chazaravi, they saw this drunk person who was stumbling around, didn't know where he was going. And once again, Ashmedai told him where to go. Ashmedai liked telling people where to go, right? Then Chadvasa, the Habaka Machabdi, he saw Chazan Kala and the party of a Chazan Kala, that everybody was happy with a Chazan Kala. And what did he do? Bacha, he cried. Strange. He's going to explain all his behaviors a little bit later. Then Shamelahu Gabra, I guess they're walking through the market and they hear someone by the shoemaker. The Habakamer La'ushkafa, Abadli Misani, make me good quality shoes, L'Shev Shni, that will last for 7 years. Achich, he started to laugh. Chazahu kasma, he saw this person who's loichus lechisha. He says kishiv. I guess he was trying to make himself some parnasa. Tavakosim, he was making these lechishos. Achich, he laughed as well. We'll get back to this. Now let's continue on. Kimata lahasam, when he finally arrived to Shlomo's palace, they didn't right away bring him to the palace of Shlomo. He wasn't summoned to Shlomo's palace until he was there for 3 days. On the first day, Ashmedai was anxious. Why is Shlomo Melech not summoned me? He asked Benayo, why is the king not calling me? They told him, he had too much to drink, so he's not feeling so well today. He's not clear enough of mind to take your audience. Shaka Levinta, so Ashmedai did a weird thing. He took one block, he piled it up on another block. Also, they went to tell Shlomo what he did. Amar lahu, hachi amar lahu. This is what Ashmedai is trying to signal to you. Please look at the article to make sure I'm not making a mistake. This is what Ashmedai is trying to signal to you. Hadar ashkuya l'macha. You know what? Give Shlomo to drink another day. And his intent was, when you're going to be negotiating with somebody, it's easier for you to get a better deal if he's not clear. Hadar ashkuya. Okay, sorry. L'machar amaluhu. The next day he said, again, how come Shlomo is not calling me? They told him this time, this time he ate too much. So he did, now what he did was a shakal levinta mechaber to oisva ira. Now the 2 blocks that he had piled up, he took the top block and put it on the ground. Again, also, Amalei Lishleim. And I told Shlomo, this is what he did. Amalu hachi. This is what he means to say. I'm sorry. So Shlomo was interpreting what Ashmedai meant. Negidu minei michlei. Keep food away from him. That's what she told my wife. L'soif klasa yomi. After 3 days, finally, ayil lekamei. Finally, Ashmedai got his audience with the king. Shakal Khan, he took a reed. Umashach arba garmidi. He threw it 4 amis. V'shada kamei, and he threw it in front of Shlomo HaMelech. What does it say? Amis long, and he threw it in front of Shlomo. Okay. Amr lei, he asked Shlomo HaMelech, what is your problem? Michti, ki ma'asahu gavra. When I die, leis b'hadan alma eladal garmidi. I'm not going to take up too much space. I'm not in your way. I'm not causing you any type of problem. Hashta kavashte l'chula alma. You already conquered all the world. You control the world. V'loy sabas, and you're not yet satisfied. Add the kapshas nami. You need a little old me. What do you need me for? Amalei Shlomo told him, "Don't worry, you're not that important. Loy kabini minachmidi. I don't need you at all. All I want is ba'inadiv na'il beis hamikdash. I want to build a beis hamikdash. B'chamibayla shemira. And I heard that you might be able to help me get a hold of the Shamir. I don't either have control of the Shamir, but l'sara de yam maserli. The Shamir is given over to the Sar of the Yam, and there are those who say, since the Shamir can break anything animate, it could break any rock, it could break any stone. So in the water, it's sort of somewhat contained. Also, the word Shamir spells Sar Yam, so that's its perfect receptacle. And the Sar of the Yam would not entrust the Shamir with any other animal other than only with this type of special rooster. Why? The Mehemen Ashvu Osei, his Shavua is believed, and the Shavua is that he does not eat Balei Chayim. He eats maybe seeds and vegetation, which means we don't need to worry that this Tarnagol will be a predator and eat the Shamir. What is the Shavua? Chickens make Shavuas. What it means is it's the laws of nature. Since the nature of this bird is not to eat, it's not a carnivore, it's a herbivore, therefore it can be trusted with the Shamir. Umay Abed Bey, what does the Tarnagol Bara do to protect this worm? It brings it to a mountain that has no growth or vegetation on it, so there's no one else there, no potential predators there. It puts it at the top of the mountain on the peak, upakatura, and now that causes, the Shamir causes, the mountain to split. Now there's a crevice in the mountain. Umankit, my umankit, upok Torah mankit, pops open the mountain. Maisi bizradim be'iloni, it brings seeds and branches from other trees. V'shadi hosam, and grow some trees there, v'avishim, and it creates a little bit of an ecosystem to contain the shamir. Behind the mitagaminon, that's why we are mitagam shamir as a nagar tura. It chops open mountains. So now they're on a wild bird chase. Now they're on a wild goose chase and a wild tarnagol chase, because now they have to find the tarnagol that is harboring the shamir. So Botku Kina, the tarnagol brought the Islabni. They looked for a tarnagol brought that has children, and what they did was they put a glass dome over the nest, so when the mother comes, the mother won't be able to get to her kids because there'll be a glass dome in the way. So what did it do? Ozal, the bird went. Shamira, she brought the shamir because the shamir would be perfect to crack the glass. And she put it on the glass. Now was the time to strike. Rama Bekala, I think it was the script, scared away the bird. Quickly, Shaja, the bird left it and ran away. Shokle, they chopped the worm, and now the bird realized that here it swore its life to protect the shamir, and it violated its promise. It didn't fulfill its promise. The bird committed suicide and killed itself because it failed to properly protect the shamir. Getting back to Ashmedoi and all the weird things he did along the way, Amrle Benayahu asked the Ashmedoi, "My time ki chazisa leusami davakatoi beurcha asikte leurche." Why did you see the need to help this blind person find the right path? Amrle, he said, "Michruzi alei berikia." They announced about him in Shemayim the tzaddik gomerhu, and therefore uman da obed leinichen nafshei zachil amadasi. If you help this person, this tzaddik, I'll be zoichet olam haba. And I'm a shade. So here you have an erlich shade. He wanted a chaparayin mitzvahs so that it could be zoichet olam haba. So we learned earlier that he covered his water because he was afraid of Mayim Agulim. So this Ashmedai was like an erlich guy. We're soon going to see that he did something that would be very out of character for an erlich guy. Anyway, you saw the shikr, the gatay be'urcha asekte le'urcha. Amalei, that's for the opposite reason. Machar the Alei the Russia Gomer. They announced it as a Russia Gomer, and therefore I figured let me help him get all his schar in Olam Hazeh, so in Olam Haba he can go straight to Gehenna. It will destroy his Olam Haba. Okay. My time Bachis, why did you cry when you saw Chas and Kala? That's not something to cry about. That's a happy occasion. Amalei, you know why? Because I know boy may misgaver begav klas and yoimin. The Chassan Rachman Litzlam is going to die without children in 30 days. Uboy minter liyavim cotton sleistar shnim. And now his poor almana is going to have to wait 13 years because he has an infant brother, and she'll have to wait to do either chalitza or yibam for 13 years. That's why I cried. My time why did you laugh when the fellow told the vendor, I want you to make me good, strong shoes for 7 years? Amalei started to laugh. Leslie. He doesn't even know if he's going to live another 7 days, but Mesane, boy, he needs, they always make fun of Balabatim, they call the Yeshiva. Ich darf huben der beste Bucher in die Yeshiva. Der größte Lamdin, der größte Tal Chuchem, der größte Maßmann, der größte Balmides. Verwus, weil ich will ihm schicken in Law School. Sagt die Gemara, my time ki chazisa lukasma davakosim. Why achichas? Why did you sound when the guy was making lechashim? Why did you laugh? Amalei said, "Have a Yosy, abegas of the Malka." He's trying to make lechashim to make money. If he just dug down right under where he was, he would have found the winning ticket to the last Powerball that was worth $1 billion, right? Abegas of the Malka, liksem ma'adikatuse. Let him make some of what's right underneath him. He's looking for fortunes, who knows where, when the fortune is right beneath his feet. Okay, that is the story of Ashmedai. Tarche Gabei, for some reason, even though Shlomo already got the Shamir, he did not release Ashmedai. He held him at the Banya Beis Hamikdash until the Beis Hamikdash was built. I don't know the reason for that. Does the article say a reason why he held him? Why he detained him that long? The Mesivta didn't bring a reason for it. So Yom Echad, one day, have a koilech day. He was one-on-one with Shlomo HaMelech. Amallah, he asked him, Ksiv, talking about Hashem's strength, Kisayafos for aim loy. The Boy Shalom has the strength of armies that are Ta'efos for aim. Varminon, and we say, what is shot in that? Ta'efos are referring to Malachi Asharis, and Ra'im Elo Hashedim. So Shlomo asked this fellow, My Rabbu Sayachum Minon. Why are you Shadim any better than us humans? What power do you have that we don't have? You're the one who's locked up in my chains, right? Amar lei, you want to know? I told him, I'll tell you what. Shkoil shushilta minoi. Take the chain off me, and the havali iskosach, give me that ring with the Shem Hashem on it. And then v'ach vilach rabosai. Then I'll show you what we're capable of. Shrakle shushilta minei. V'yoiv lo iskosei. Did you ever hear the saying, curiosity killed the cat? Bully, and it's a shaila if bully means he swallowed Shlomo HaMelech, or if swallow means he swallowed the ring. And then he spread his wings. He had one wing spread out in Shemayim. And then he threw Shlomo HaMelech 400 parsoyos, which means out of Eretz Yisrael. So Shlomo HaMelech was gone, and what he did was he took the shape. They're like a chameleon, I think it's called. He actually took on the identity of Shlomo HaMelech. So now he is the fake king. You know, when he said I'm the king, someone told him, my foot, you're the king. And we'll soon see about his feet. So anyway, he took on the king, and Shlomo HaMelech was thrown out. That moment when all of Shlomo's fame and fortune evaporated, Shlomo said, Ma Yisrael la'adam b'chol amalo sheyamal tachas Hashem. What benefit will he have from all of the work of building up whatever he has? All that remains from my hard work is this. My vizeh, what was Shlomo HaMelech referring to? Rabbi Shmuel Chadam and Maklo, his stick, the Chadam Begoindoi, his clothing. And the Mepharshim explained that what it means is, I may have lost all of the power and the wealth and the fame of Malchus, but I didn't lose the godless that I have in myself. I didn't lose my great mila of being a Moshel, of being an Erlicha, of having the pedigree and the sophistication of a king. That will be with me forever. In the meantime, there's a famous story when Moshe Reichman was going once to Mount Sinai Hospital to visit his mother who was in the hospital. He walked up the stairs, of course, because you can't go on the elevator on Shabbos. So let's say she was on the 8th floor. On the 4th floor, he needed to take a rest. So he went into the ward to relax for a couple of minutes. And then when he turned around to get back into the stairwell, the door was locked. And he's pushing, trying to get out. They wouldn't let him out. So he asked one of the nurses, could you let me out? She says, no, we can't let you out. You have to have a special pass. Who's your nurse? He said, I'm not a patient there. I just stopped to the rest. No. Everyone says they're not a patient there. This is a psychiatric ward. Everyone says they're not a patient. They're just visiting. You're not going out. He says, man, with all due respect, you know the Wesley that's donated by the Reichman family? I'm Paul Reichman. So the nurse starts laughing. Yeah, I'm the Queen of England. So then another nurse says, so they let him up. So Dr. Gemara, what happened was over here, no one recognized Shlomo, and he was banging on doors. Wherever he went, Amar Nikoy Hellas, how you see Melech al Yisrael of Yerushalayim, I was the king. And everyone said, yeah, and I'm the Queen of England, right? Kimata Gabas Sanhedrin, when he went to the Sanhedrin, he didn't let up. Every day he kept on saying the same thing. Amar Rabban and Michti, Shoita Bechad and Milsalei Sarach. A Shoita changes his Narishkeiten from day to day. He won't stick with the same thing over and over and over again. And the Bibat, he's so persistent. Am Shlomo Melech, I think this requires some investigation. Maybe an hour isn't really 60 minutes. Dr. Gemara, my high, what's going on? Amrulay, they asked us, Amrulay B'nayo, they asked B'nayo, who they knew was Shlomo Melech's close confidant, Kaboy Loch Malka L'Gabei, has the king recently summoned you to him? Amrulay, strange, normally he summoned me regularly. It's already 30 days, 40 days. He hasn't reached out to me. That's weird. Then Sholchalu L'Achvasa. Remember, Ashmedai is a very ehrlich guy, right? He wants to get into Adam Haba. They asked all of the queens, because Shlomo Melech had many queens. Did you have any intimacy with the king lately? Shalchul, they answered, in, of course. Kasi, sure, we have intimacy with him all the time. Shalchulu, bitku bekarai, did you check his feet? Because they have chicken feet, Shadim. Did you check his legs? So shalchulu b'muchi kasi, he always wears socks. So we thought it's because he has foot odor. So therefore, we didn't want to pull the socks off. But interesting, now that you asked the question, lately, the katavalu b'nidusayu, he wants to be intimate with us, even though we're nidais, which is usher, which Shlomo never used to do. And not only that, the chatavala nami lebasheva ime, he also wants to have intimacy with Basheva, his own mother, which we thought was also a little bit strange. You know, there's a famous story with a chassan and a kala that the chassan had smelly feet, and the kala had a very bad breath problem. So the mother, the chassan, told him, whatever you do, don't take off your socks, which is what the Ashmadoi did. Whatever you do, don't take off your socks. And the mother of the kala told her, whatever you do, do not open your mouth at all till you get out of bed in the morning and you brush your teeth. Sure. In the middle of the night, the chassan wakes up and he smells asaga ferlich smell, and he looks down and he sees that his sock is missing. His sock fell off in the middle of the night. So he calls his mother and says, Mommy, I think the kala ate my sock. Okay, so right away, the Sanhedrin Chap, this wasn't Shlomo Melech, it was really, what was the fellow's name again? I forgot his name already. Ashmadoi, it was really Ashmadoi. So then, Asyua l'Shlomo, they brought Shlomo Melech. V'haval Yaskatsa, they gave him his ring. The shayla if they got the ring back from him or if they gave him a new ring. V'shushilta, the chokik alei shem, and they gave him the same chain with which he originally contained Ashmadoi. Ki ayel, when he came with the chain, Chazah, he saw him parach, he ran for his life. It's funny because the first time around, they had to get Ashmadoi drunk for him to be subdued. Here, Ashmadoi was afraid of Shlomo coming by himself with the chain. Even though Shlomo saw that Ashmadoi was afraid of him and ran away, Shlomo was terrified for the rest of his life of, I can't say his name. What's his name again? Of Ashmadoi. Shishim Givarim Saviv Lam Givar Yisrael Kulam Achuz Echer Malum de Muhammad Yishchar Be'al Yerecha Mipachad by Leila. She was feared. So the problem is, if he was such a erlich guy and he wanted to get into Olam Haba, what was he doing with the wives of Shlomo? Doesn't make any sense. So the Mesivta brings down a bomb shel chiddush, vice the chois. It's not snutz for a shade to have bia with a Jewish woman, even in Eshish. It's not called bia. It's not a bia asura. So there was no issue involved. So he was allowed to do it. So he could be a fully erlich guy, and he can get away with this, and it's not a problem. Because otherwise, how do you explain this? That's what he brings such a riot. Because he was such an erlich guy. He's so worried about going into Canadian. He helped the blind guy. He's a very chashuv guy. He's makbid on having his water covered with the bar. So such an erlich guy is going to be such a poet barayas. So therefore, he bring a riot. Vice the chosh. Since Ashmadoi did want to be an erlich guy, vice the chosh, that was not an issue for him. I'm sorry? I know a lot of erlich guys that are crooks. I know a lot of shocklers that are crooks. Zok the Gemara. Rav and Shmuel, Chad Omar, Melech the Hedjot. One of them said that Shlomo Melech never took back the kingdom. When he came back, even though they got rid of Ashmadoi, he retired. The Chad Omar, Melech the Hedjot Melech. He did sit on the throne again. Okay, now we're going to go through a long series of ailments and what their disease, what their refuahs are. So I'm going to start with a story that I once heard that they had a big problem. I think Avigdor told me the story. That in the Russian army, they had a big problem with many recruits. In order to avoid the army, they said that they had a hernia. And because of that, they cannot be soldiers. They cannot be drafted. So I asked Avigdor, how did they solve the problem? Avigdor was very simple. They operated on all those people, and they had a 0% success rate. And suddenly the problem went away. So sometimes the best way to avoid a surgical correction is to avoid the problem in the first place. And I think that's going to be the moral of the story. Avoid all of these sicknesses at all costs, because the remedy is very, very not pleasant. Ladama de Reisha. Rashi says it means choyle ke'ev haroish haba machmas dam, and the article says it's from high blood pressure. It's high blood pressure. So what are you supposed to do? Lazy shirvina. You should bring a shirvina, and I'll touch it the way Rashi touches it. You should bring a shirvina, which is a min eres. It's a type of grass. Ubina, bina Rashi says is an arava. The asa is a hadas avasadora. Rashi is a hadas like a moist hadas. The zesa we know is an olive. The chilfa Rashi says is a poplar. I don't know what these things are. The chilfi diama, which Rashi says is girupla. I'm not sure what specific spice that is. The yavla is a type of grass. Vilishiklinu bahadi adodi. You should cook them all together. The lintel that then take klas meya kasi a high gisa dereisha with klas meya kasi a high gisa dereisha. Fill up 300 cups of this cocktail on either side of this man's head, the guy with high blood pressure. The Eloi, and if for some reason you can't do that, Lesi Varda Chivra, take a white rose, the Koi Bechadora, which only has leaves on one side of its stem, but not on the other side. The Lishlake, cook it well, and the Lintel Shitin Kasi a high gisa de Reshe, the Shitin Kasi a high gisa de Reshe. And on either side of his head, put this stuff, and that will solve his high blood pressure. Litzlichta. What is the sickness called? Slichta. Rashi says what this is ke'ev chatzi aroish. That could be a migraine. Normally, when someone has a migraine, when someone has a migraine, it's only on like half of their head. So this is how you solve a migraine. Lazy, if I tried this for my wife, I'm sure I would end up in the doghouse. I would end up where Ashvadoy ended up. So litzlichta. What if there's a migraine? Lazy tanagoy lebra. Take that chicken, the shamir chicken, right? If you could find one that didn't commit suicide, because of the Shamir story, the lishchete, and you should shecht it bezuzah chiver with a fresh, sharp dinner. So you'll cut it with a coin. I guess you have to sharpen the edge of the coin and shecht it. Where should you drip the blood from the shchita? Ahu gisa the kayavle. So shecht this chicken on top of your wife's head. What side of your head hurts, honey? Neither side. Don't worry, I'm feeling better already. I think that's how it works. Right? And then be careful when it's dar midamei the loylis minula ene. Make sure that the blood of the chicken doesn't get into your wife's eyes. I'm used to like a parish making sure that the chicken doesn't make on her head, but shechting with the blood is a whole new level. That was the other refuah, according to one shita, right? Okay, the loylis minula ene. And then, just in case you didn't have enough exposure to this dirty, bloody chicken, get yourself a volume discount at a dry cleaner, and then v'latalia b'seifid abava, hang this chicken by the doorpost, so the chi'ayel chayefe v'chinavik chayefe. So every time you go in and out, you bang into this bloody chicken, and then you'll say, you know what? This is a much bigger headache than my headache. I think I feel better already. It's like a story with Chelm, when the house was too crowded. Okay, gezok to Gemara weiter. Lebruxi. So really, you're not allowed to take this lightly. The Gra says these are all real refuahs shalachoshim. The Rambam says these aren't again nowadays, but the Gra says these are real if you know precisely how to do it. I don't even know what the disease is to use it for. That's challenging enough for me. But I'll call upon these are very fascinating type of refuahs. But some say it's because you don't know how to do it exactly. It's going to lead to Chil Hashem because you're going to think it doesn't work. But really, it's because you didn't do it properly. There's a whole bunch of Torah on this. Then there's a Shal of Ma'aseh and Mori. There's a lot of Torah about this. Levruxi. Levruxi is Chayli Shiba'ayin Shikar Maila. I think the Art Scroll says that it's cataracts, right? Laisi Akrava, Deshev Chumri. Take a scorpion that has 7 colors. Rashi says it means like its back has 7 different colors because of age. I guess it creates different splodges of color, but there are others who learn it's like, you know how each of the abdomen of an insect is made out of little pieces, so it should have like 7 pieces, but that means it has very, very potent venom. Dry it out, not in the sun, because that will ruin the UV light, will ruin its potency. Let it just dry on the shade. V'nishchoik tarti mansa kuchla v'chada mansa minei. Grind up this and grind up mansa. Mansa was some type of coil. Coil is some type of sand. And take 2 parts coil, 1 part scorpion, eyeshadow. Okay, eyeshadow. The limli tlasa mekichli. Take the 3 little applicators that you normally use for the eyeshadow. Take 3 of them behayena, put 3 of them in one eye, the talse mekachli behind it, and 3 in the other eye. But tfeiloi limli, don't put more. The iloi pakaene. If you put in too much of this cocktail, it's going to ruin your eye. Pakaene. It's going to knock your eye out. Paka, it'll take it out. It'll burst your eye. Whatever is not going to be good. Lishviri de leila. That's someone who has blindness at night. It's like a temporary blindness that one gets at night. Nesi. Oh, this is getting very exciting. Nesi shudra barka. Take a rope that's made out of horsehair or some type of hair. The neser chada karta mikaramine the chada kada mikaba. Tie one leg of the chayla to one of the legs of the dog, and then v'nitra for yanuki chasba basrei, and the children should bang hail because they make noise to startle the dog. Not a dog's yanking at him, right? And then you should say the following lechisha: the lemulei asa kalba, old dog, achsa tanagola, stupid chicken. That's part of the system, and then it's not over yet. There's more. It gets more fun. And then the ligvi shev umtzi mishiva bati, collect 7 pieces of meat from 7 different households. But before you take the meat out of the household, they have to cook it and prepare it for you. Where should they cook it and prepare it? In a special pot. Where's this special pot? Take the door off its hinge, and the hole in the floor that the hinge of the door went into, that's where you're going to cook this delicious meat. So you have to figure out how to do it. And then put it there in the hole. I'm not sure if you cook it there. It just says put it there. So it could be you cooked it before and you just put it there, and then where should the chayla eat it? Bikil kula de masa, in the garbage dump. So just in case it's not appetizing yet enough after it was sitting in the hole of the door of the household, then take it to the garbage dump. You're going to see for sure. By this time, the guys can say, no, I can see, or I'll wait till the morning, it'll be just fine. Basar hachi, we're not done yet. After you do that, liv shudra barka, then you could take off the rope, because all this time, this poor guy is tied to the dog. It's like a relay race, right? V'neimur hachi, and say the following: Shavriri the ploini bar plonisa, the blindness of this person, shevkinu leploini bar plonisa, let go of him, abandon him, and go on the dog. So that's the connection to the dog. Transfer the sickness to the dog. Gavalti. Lishviri di yamama. What if someone couldn't see only by day? What should he do? Lazy shiva sumki megava de chayusa. He should take 7 sumki. What is sumki? It's a part of the animal. I'm sorry, 7 spleens, right? I think Rashi says that it's a spleen. I just want to see where Rashi says it. I know. 1 second. No, it doesn't say. But yeah, something is tcholim. Yeah, it was looking for that Rashi. It's 7 spleens from animals. V'nitzvinu. And what should you roast it in? What pan? What George Foreman grill should you use to roast this? The most appetizing that you could imagine. Not wood from a sherry cask that'll infuse delicious wine taste into the meat, but rather achas b'da umna, the klicheres that the makis dam used to use to capture everybody's blood. That the flavor that it would add to the meat would be hafel of a fella. It's a real eye opener. V'leisev iu megavoy, let the blind person sit inside the door. V'nish achrina mi me'avroi, and let somebody else sit outside the house. The name avira, and the blind man should say to the person who could see, Havli, give me some of that delicious food, the echel, so that I can eat it. The name pesicha, and then the person who's sitting outside who can see should say, Sov, echel, sit down, eat. Ubasar the echel, after he eats, litbre lechasba, he should then break this keli, You know why? The Eloi Hadri Eluya. If the keli stays in one piece, this sickness is going to come back. So by breaking it, the sickness will not come back. How about ledama? This is the best one. Ledama the osi menechira. If someone has a bloody nose, someone has a problem with his nose runs blood. So you have a whole series of options. So this is perfect for a gabai. Lacy Gabra Cohen, bring a Cohen, the Shmei Levi. So find Mr. Levi Cohen, the Lichtiv Le Levi Lemafreya. But you should write his name Yoel, because you should write his name backwards, right? The E Loi, and if you can't find Mr. Levi Cohen, Lacy Inish Mayama, take any person, and no matter what his name is, you'll assign him a new name. The Nechtiv Le, write for him, and I am Papi Shila Bar Sumki Lemafreya, but write it backwards. The E Loi, and if you can't do that, Nichtiv Le Hachi, you write the following indiscernible sentence. Hachi tam dali b'mi chesef tam dali b'mi pgam. So I don't know what this means, but Rashi says lachashu. It's a lachash. The Eloi, and if you can't do that, then take ikra daspasta. Take the root of an aspasta. Does anybody know what that is? What aspasta? What plant an aspasta is? Okay. The ashla the puria. Rashi says ashla the puria is chevel shalmita, the rope of a bed, atik of an old bed. The kortisa, which is the yarshal mukhan, which is like tracing paper, like onion skin. Umurika is krug. I don't know what that is. Oh, I'm sorry, saffron. Oh, it's a very expensive spice. The sumka diluliva, which Rashi says it's some type of red plant that grows around a lulav, and you should do it belitmish. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. You should burn them all together. So now you have a whole bunch of ash, and then take like a bundle of cotton, the nigdal tartip silta, and spin, like by Hanukkah you spin 2 wicks from it, make 2 wicks. The litmish bechala, soak the wicks. It's like you're breading a piece of chicken. You're going to soak the wicks in vinegar, and then vinigdavel bekit mahadein, and then you could roll it in this cocktail of ashes. V'neisiv v'nechira, and then you put them in your nose, and then it's going to stop bleeding. Your nose will stop bleeding.
Yeah, that's how they. And my son had a problem with
And he did this?
No, they went to the doctor and they burned something in the nose.
Okay. So V'iloi, if you don't want to do this, if you feel uncomfortable with this particular procedure, there's an alternative medicine. Instead of using the conventional medicine that we just listed, we have now alternative medicine. We're offering alternative medicine now. Till now we were conventional medicine. V'iloi lechsi amasamayim. Find yourself a brook of water, the Azlam Mizrach Klapimayr, that's flowing from east to west. The Nifsa v'nekim chatkara l'hai gisa v'chatkara l'hai gisa, and then stand with your legs across the river. You're straddling the river, so you have one leg on the north side of the river and 1 foot on the south side of the river, and then we're going to have a game of Twister. V'neshkol tina b'yada diyamina mituse kara dismali. With your right hand, take some earth under your left foot, and with your left hand, then take some mud under your right foot. So here's the Twister game. Then the nigdal taiti psilta da amra, make 2 wicks, the nitmish betina, and roll it in the mud that you pick, so it should get saturated with mud, and then the nesev benechire, and then put it in your nose. And that will solve your problem. The Eloi, and if you don't want to use this less conventional method, we have other options. Dios nach chickens, ich hab nach skillets. Leisev tuti marzeva. This is a much simpler one. Sit under an eavesdrop where the water drains off the roof. V'naisi maya v'lishtiala, and let the water fall on you. The lemru, and all you need to say is Hiheche, the paske hani maya lifts like dome the plain about polisa. The same way the water stops when the rain stops, then so too the nosebleed should stop. Yeah, it's true. Now we're going to soon see that there's going to be riots from the Gemara that these are not alternatives. the first one listed is the best one to do, and the second one doesn't work as well, and it's going to be relevant a little bit later, because soon we're going to run into certain types of refuahs that involved eating machalos asuras, and that brings up the shaila: are you allowed to eat machalos asuras for refuah? So let's see the Gemara weiter. Lidama da'asim epuma. If somebody has blood coming out of his face, Rashi explains where it's coming from and where it's going to. Rashi says, where is my Rashi here? Rashi says it over here. Where can I find it? Dama asim epuma. It's coming out of his mouth, but it's coming from his head. I can't see. Where's Rashi? Where is Rashi? Can't see Rashi. I don't see Rashi where it says Dama Dasma Puma. What does the Art Scroll say? I think it means the blood coming out of his. It's coming from it's coming from his head. Yeah, but I think it stems from his body. I think stems from his body. We're going to see in a second. But Kinelai Begila de Chitza. Ivan. Oh, that's right. Right, it comes okay, so we'll soon see. But Kinela, you need to know how dangerous the situation is, and if you even can possibly heal it. So what you do is you use a stalk from a wheat plant, and isarach, if the blood sticks to it, mireya kasi, it's got to be coming from his lung, the isle tekanta, and then we'll talk about what the medicine for it is. But viloi, if it doesn't stick to the straw, then mechveda kasi, it must be coming from the liver, and if the liver is infected, there's no hope. So let me ask you a question: what is more sensitive, a liver or a lung? We know that you can lose almost all of your liver, and your liver will regenerate itself. On the other hand, a lung that's even slightly damaged, the puncture of the lung makes a treifa. So isn't it counterintuitive? It's much. If it comes from the liver, you have no hope. If it comes from the lung, you have hope. Should be the opposite. So that's the Gemara's kasha. When is it a problem? When is it a treifa? That's if the liver is completely missing. But Hareya is much more sensitive. Even if it's missing or it's punctured, that itself would make it a treifa. So why are you telling me there's hope it's from the lung, but there's no hope if it comes from the liver? So we answered very simple. The liver is below the lung in the body. So in order for damp to come from the liver, it's got to go up through the lungs and out of his mouth. If the blood made it from the liver all the way up through his mouth, it must be completely dissolved. And therefore, there's no more hope. So therefore, we'll only try to offer a refuah if it's from the lungs. Amar Mar, there's help. My takante, what is the help? Shiva kuni mi pirma de silka. He should take 7 kuni of pirma de silka. And what is kuni? Kuni is mole egret, a fistful. 7 fistfuls of pirma de silka, and that is the bundles of trademar beets, I think, right? The shiva kuni and 7 handfuls of pirma de crazy, of cress, or leek, I think. The chamisha kuni and 5 fistfuls of preda. Preda is a type of grass. The talsakuni and 3 fistfuls of talfachi. Again, these are all simonim. I don't know what they are. The kuna and the 1 fistful of kamuna of kamun. You got to get your Indian spices in there. Okay. Talfachi is lentils. The talfachi is lentils, beans, and then you have kuna. The kumun is kumun. You got to get your Indian spices, right? The chuni the chavli and a fistful of rope. Uchenegdon kansa pitirasa, and kenegdon means kishir kalaylu. Let's say you have if you put it all together, you need that full amount of pitirasa, which is the fat inside the intestines of an animal. It's actually one of the chalebs. It's one of the chalebs. It's one of the chalebs, and it has to be not from any animal, from an animal that was first born. The lifshel, and you take this entire cocktail and you cook it, the leichel, and then you eat it. And the lishti abasrei shichra charifa, and drink very sharp beer after that, the tevas. That's very good beer. That's one shot, and some Rishonim learn it the teves because the strongest beer is made in teves. It's called ice beer, right? Labat ice. It's called Labat ice because teves is cold, right? Lekacha. What if somebody has problems with his molars, toothache? Amar Rabba Barafuna. This is what you should do. I wonder if Ella Haber knows this one. I wonder if he uses it. He for sure knows this Gemara. I wonder if he actually tries it in his dental office. Lays it tuma yechida. Get a garlic where most garlics are made out of a bunch of cloves. Find the garlic where the whole garlic was one big clove. The nimbersei and crush it, mince it, the mishchol milcha in oil and salt. The nesve atufra, the alyoina, the hagisa, the chayvle, and put it on the thumb of the hand that's on the same side as where his toothache is. So if his toothache is in his right side of his mouth, put it on the thumbnail. But to make sure that this concoction doesn't flow over his thumbnail onto the skin of his thumb, make a little border out of dough around his nail to contain this potent concoction on his nail. And make sure it doesn't touch your skin because it will give you tsaras. Lechinchi. What do you do if you have a problem? I think you have like boils growing in your throat that can grow and choke you. So this is going to be a 4-part remedy. Because first you have to stop the boils from swelling. Then in preparation to pop them, you have to do something so that the pus and sarge shouldn't blow all over the place. It should stay contained in one place. Then you got to pop them. And then after you pop them, you have raw skin in your throat. You have to heal the skin. So it's going to be a 4-part remedy. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, first you should do is get chamsi ki mamru. Either chamsi was one type of plant, or mamru is another type of plant. But the ikad the chamsi adif mi mamru. If you can get the root of the chamsi plant, it will be more potent than the mamru plant. The ninkait bepume, and you should put it into his mouth. Hani lu kume. That's going to stop the swelling from increasing. Lebeshule. Now we need to cook it, meaning to contract it a little bit so that when it pops, you don't have pus flying all over the place. Lizi pari deresh nafya. Bring pari deresh nafya, which Rashi says are subim gedolim shetzafin lamayla benavak shemarakim. When you sift flour, the first sifting, you have big chunks of psilus. Take that stuff. The talfachi, I think we said, are beans, right? Bafrayu, don't shake the earth off of them. When you harvest them, keep the earth mixed in. Vishuvli lusa, get some shuvli lusa, which is fenugreek. Vichumrasa, the kashusa, which is some type of flower, blossom that grows on kasha's humlun. I'm not sure what this is. Hapad, the kashusa. And then vininko, take from this mixture kamguza, the size of a walnut, bipume, in your mouth, and that will stop the pus from blowing up all over the place when you're ready to pop the pimple. Now, if tuche, now we need to pop the pimple. So what you should do is you should get a straw, and in this straw, at the end of the straw, you should get some seeds from a certain type of plant, and we want to apply these seeds right on the actual wounded area. So what you do, you take a long straw, and your friend holds the one end outside your mouth, and he extends the straw into your mouth, so the other end will be right at your wound. And you go, and he blows all of the seeds that's in the straw, so it should be applied directly on to the wound. So these type of seeds, begilo de chitza, with a straw of a wheat plant, lasuke, period. Lasuke. Now we have raw skin because you busted the pimple. Now we need to get it to heal. So what you do is, let's say afra mitula de besakise. If you ever went to the bathroom here in Laguna, especially at the end of Shabbos, there's what I call overspray all around the bowl. So in the olden days, the bowl was a rim of rocks, and the overspray went around the rocks. So you have that earth that's saturated with overspray. That's what we want. Take some of that earth, the nigva badupsha, to enhance its flavor, mix it with honey. Then it will be irresistible. Eat that, that will solve your problem that you have in your throat. Gavalti. That's what the Gemara, that's exactly what the Gemara says. Lavarsim. and I don't even know what the tzurar. This is what I was talking about before that I was getting mixed up with. This is something where there's some oozing from his head that's coming out of his nose. Bronchial infection. Oh, so that's bronchitis. Okay. Lacy, let him bring kipsikta denishtur. He should get a shear of a galant. It's a type of nut. Take a galant full of a plant called nishtar. V'chi amguza, and a walnut sized piece of chelbenisa dufshanisa, which is sweet chelbena, and umali tarvada dufsha chiyur, and a full spoon of white honey. Umali natla bas mechuza. There was a keli in mechuza that was referred to as a natla, and Rashi says that's a revius. Chamra of wine, nikita, pure, clean, crisp wine. Rashi says white wine. Cook this cocktail together. How are you going to know when it's fully cooked? The ingredient of this cocktail that takes the longest to cook is the nashtar. So when you see that the nashtar is fully cooked, you can assume that the mix is fully cooked. It's ammonia. So how does ammonia get fully cooked? So it's a liquid. How does it get fully cooked? I'm not sure how that works. Is ammonia is a liquid, is it not? It's some type of srap is a sap. Okay. The Eloi, if you don't have these ingredients, also the chalba the izich chavrasi, take a revius of milk of a white goat. This is much easier. Vinitaife atlas kalchi karba, and drip it onto 3 stems of kruv. Kruv is cabbage, right? With nivcheshe begavsa the marmehin, and you should mix this pot with we call it a fuckanol. Shlomo, you know what a fuckanol is? It's a wooden spoon. A wooden spoon is a fuckanol. If you made trouble, your mama ichedach shlugen with the fuckanol, right? Because it was a wooden spoon. So you should stir it with this wooden type of thing. Huh? English, yeah. You never heard that word before? Every English kid knows what a fuckanol feels like. On his fingers, on his hands, ibidul. Okay? That's why some Hungarians use vulgar language, but it has nothing to do with what you think it is. It just means that whenever you hear an Hungarian say a vulgar word, all he means is a wooden spoon. That's all he means is a wooden spoon. Okay? Zok the Gemara, v'chi bashel gavza, the marmehin, when that gets cooked, bashel lekule, that would be an indication that it's fully cooked. The Eloi, then nafki the kalba chivra, take the tsoya, nafka, what leaves, take the tsoya, the dung of a white dog, the nigval benatva, and knead it together with tsuri. It's the one that is simonim that was in the Ketores. But don't eat too much. It's not good for you to eat too much dog dung. The chama de efsher nafka lo nechel. Try to keep it to a minimum how much of this you're going to eat. The mafrik, it ruins your avarim. It ruins your avarim. You know the story with this guy. He's walking down the street and he sees something there. He picks it up and he says, "Smells like it. It looks like it. Tastes like it. I'm so happy I didn't step into it." Right? Dr. Gemara Vayter. Legira. What if somebody has a sharp pain? Lacy gira delilta. You should take gira delilta. It sounds like this was a naturally formed rock that fell when it hailed, and it in one end it looked like a pointed arrow, and on the other end it was like a handle. It seems from Rashi like this was a naturally formed rock, and it fell with hail. Rashi said, "V'nipchi, turn it around so that the arrow should point down and the handle should point up. V'nishti mayalu, you drip water on it. V'nishti, and drink that water, and that water will heal your sharp pain. V'lo, if you can't do that." Find a jug of water that a dog drank from overnight, but make sure that it wasn't left open overnight. But be careful not to drink water that was left overnight. You know why you're not allowed to drink water that was left overnight? Because we're afraid a snake drank from it. Let me ask you a question. If I gave you a cup full of the venom of a king cobra and you gulped it down, you know what's going to happen to you? Nothing at all. Did you know that? Because it's not poison, it's venom. venom only impacts you, and a tiny drop can kill you in your veins, but in your digestive system, it has zero impact. There's actually YouTube videos of people drinking a cup of cobra venom. Poison kills. Venom only kills if it gets you. So I'm not sure how Gilu works, because there was a concern that there's poison in it. So is it a mistake? Is it a mistake? You can't say Chazal made a mistake. So maybe it has some bad qualities to it, or maybe there are certain animals that their venom is poison as well. So the Giluya, if someone drank water that we're concerned have venom inside it, what you should do is a nafka de chamra. Nafka is a revius. It's a type of keli that's a revius. The chamra chaya. You should have undiluted wine. Lemursa, which is a disease called klug. Someone who's a smart ass. What is this? What is Rashi say? What is it? What does the article say? What is the sickness? Oh, okay. I thought it was a chokum from the Manashtana. Okay. Anafke the chamra, he should take some wine, the same share of wine, but it should be mixed with ba'ala tulana, with a plant that's red, some type of red plant. I'm not sure exactly what this plant is. Lepircha deliba, if he feels lighthearted, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Palpitation, lepircha deliba, what he should do is, this is much easier. Lazy tlas brushi also desari, he should take 3 chalas made out of barley, v'nish tirinu bekimcha delay avar iluya banyomin. You should soak it in fresh kutach, which is like spoiled milk and flour, salt type of mixture, but it had to be less than 40 days old. So in other words, fresh. V'neichel, he should eat it. V'nishti abasrayu chab mamarka, and he should drink after that diluted wine. Not only is that not going to help the situation, that's going to increase his palpitations. You're right, I made a mistake. I meant this is good for a heavy heart, because in fact this does lighten the heart. But if you have a light heart, which David Dion touched as palpitations, take 3 wheat chalas, soak them in honey, and eat them, and drink raw wine, undiluted wine. Which seems like heart pain, right? Chest pains. Lazy tlas bei ninaya. He should take 3 eggs worth of mint, ubi asa de kamoina, and an egg worth of cumin, that Indian spice, ubi asa de shomshimi, and an egg worth a kabetza of shomshimi, v'leichel, and he should eat it. Lechev mai, to someone who has an upset stomach, lazy, and the reason why this is here is because after all these refuahs, by now you for sure must already have an upset stomach. Lechev mai, if you have an upset stomach, lazy tlas mea palpale arichta, take 300 long peppers and soak them in water. And every day drink the water from 100 of these peppers. Bichamra, with wine. Ravin from the city of Norish, he used a much lighter dose. Avad lalabarti de Rabashi, he made for the daughter of Rabashi a dose of mei v'chamshin mehani, didan v'itzia, and he did it with our peppers and it worked. Or maybe their peppers were stronger, but whatever it is, he didn't need 300 with 150. He solved this girl's upset stomach. I'm not sure what they are. Lechirtza, for chirtza, what does Rashi say? Chirtza is toilam shibaman, tapeworms. They're tapeworms. What you should do, anpaka de chamra. Remember, anpaka was a shear of, I think, a revius. Anpaka de chamra, the atarfa de ara. Rashi says it has some type of leaf of a tree called lurire. I'm not sure what this is. Lechirtza chibra, if you have white tapeworms, let's say bizra gilgila, take a certain type of seed, bizra gilgila, it's aruga, I don't know what this is. I'm sorry, cress. V'nitzaira b'shis tag, and you should wrap it in a shmata that's made of temer gefen, which I think is the fiber from a vine. V'nitzaira b'maya, it's soaked in water, so it sounds like you're using that as a tea bag, and you're soaking it in water. V'nishtin, you should drink it, but be careful that your tea bag doesn't have a hole in it, and you're not drinking the actual seeds. You're just drinking the water. V'nizdar mibinsa, The Eloi, if you're not going to be careful, the seeds can puncture your intestines. They're very powerful. Lemesar means if you have diarrhea and you cannot get a hold of Imodium from your local drugstore, this is what you should do. Sisin retiva b'mayim. You should take moist puliol. I'm not sure what this plant is, but it should be moist. Okay, so you should moist that in water and drink that. Lemishra, if you're constipated and you have to loosen your bowels, then yevishta b'maya. Take this, but dry it out and then soak it in water. V'simanech itza retiva de sachar nahara. If you want to have a shmata that you're going to block a hole in the river or use it to dam the river, you'll use dry stuff. So dry stuff stops the diarrhea, and wet stuff loosens the diarrhea. Okay, I'm sorry, to the opposite. Moist stuff will plug, dry stuff will loosen. Okay, letachla. What if you have an inflamed spleen? You have an inflamed spleen. I don't even know how they knew. They didn't have X-rays in those days. How did they know they even had an inflamed spleen? Maybe I guess you could feel it. Lacy shav bini demaya. He should take 7 types of shrotzim, a luka shalmayim. I think the article says they're what are they called? Right. They're blood. There's a word for them. Leeches, right? Now this is where you have a problem because they're shrotzim. How could you eat shrotzim? V'niyafshinu betula. You dry them out in the shade, as we said earlier. If you dry them out in the sun, they'll lose their potency. But if you let them dry slowly in the shade, they'll dry out, but they'll retain their potency. And every day, nishti taite utlasa b'cham. Now here is where it comes up. You're not allowed to use you're allowed to use a refuah, something that's a dover osir, if there's no other refuah for it. But the problem here, Frank, the Rishonim, that there is another option because it says v'iloi leisi tachlas the tzapirta the lo iftach. Take the tchoil, take the spleen of the goat that never gave birth, v'nitachya b'tanura, and rub it in the oven, v'nuki lahadei, and then you should hang it up in front of him. You should stand connected this spleen hanging in the oven. V'neima, and you should say the following: Lachash kihecha the yavish hay tachla the yavish tachle the plenty by producer. He's like this spleen got dried out. His spleen as well should contract. If you can't do that, you can't put it in the oven. The tachya beinu urba the base. So just force it in between the rows of bricks of his house, achadin of a new house. The name Hachi, and you should say the same lachash as before. If that doesn't work, if you can't do that, then livki shachva bishachav bishabata. Find a dead man, a corpse of a man who died on Shabbos. Take the hand of the dead man, and put it on your spleen. The name, and you should say, like this hand dried out, the yavish takle the plainer by planisa. So once again, there's a shaila, a corpse is also by no, how can you do it? So there's who hold that this is not this is shaloi keder chanasa, and there's actually sheetas oil. That's why you're allowed to eat these leeches because it's shaloi keder chanasa. Or some people say like Moshe that it's a goy, and then there's a shaila if a goy's body is also by no. So it gets into a whole bunch of shilas. But the point that I wanted to bring out is I said earlier that when you have a list of remedies, the first one is the best, and as you go on, they're not as good. And that's why you're allowed to do the first one, even though it involves Yisurim, because you would think, why would I do the first one which involves Yisurim if I can heal myself using something that doesn't involve Yisurim? Vice the choice, you're allowed to use something that involves Yisurim, even if there's others that are not Osir, if this is a better remedy. So therefore, you'd be allowed to do it. The Eloi. Okay, can we? I don't know how these things work. V'iloi, and if not, Nesi benisa, take a fish. I think a benisa is a fish, right? Take a fish. Rashi says, v'nishti, v'nitza benafka, and where should you roast it? You should roast it in the kiln of a blacksmith. V'nechla b'maya, and drink it with the water, the beinavcha, the water that the blacksmith uses to cool down his metal after he finishes forming it. V'nishta mimaya de beinavcha. Okay, v'nechla. I'm sorry. Where's it? V'lo nesha b'niyah v'nital beinavcha v'nichla b'maya de beinavcha and v'nishta mimaya de beinavcha. So eat it with water and drink water as well. Hahu Iza, we're trying to show how potent this is, because there was once a goat, it would regularly drink the water of a blacksmith. When it was shechted, they didn't even find it had a spleen, its spleen had totally dissolved. The Eloi, if you can't do that, liftach chavisa de chamra lishmei, open up a new barrel of wine specifically for this purpose. Let's see Rashi over here on top. Specifically for this purpose, Rashi says, Yikne chava shal yayin l'shtiyasai kloimer yishte yayin toiv tamid harbe. Oh no, it doesn't say you should buy wine for him to drink. Amal, and drinking wine is good for you. Okay. That's right. Amar le Rabacha b'rei the Rabba or Rabashi islay chavisa de chamra. If I had a barrel of wine, well, also coming to mind, I wouldn't even have to ask you for refuahs, because the wine would solve all of my problems. Elamargo, the pashachris, if you eat pashachris every day, the malya l'chulagufe. Pashachris will make you healthy. And there's a big shaila in the Rishonim. Does that mean b'dafka you have to wash? Does that mean maybe only a special type of bread? There's a special type of bread that they make, or could it be any bread? Could it be mezainis? Could it even be shahakrel? Could it be anything? Could it be a drink? There are those who hold it could even be a tea or a coffee. As long as you have something in the morning, that will keep you healthy. L'rish chasa. What if you have this infliction called rush chasa? Rashi's tachtonius. I think it means hemorrhoids. Lacy akika. He should bring akika, which Rashi says is akika's esav sheshmoy kakuli, and then Rashi says the ilva and ilva vaspircha umartacha v'chamrusa the pilmoin to pilon. So Rashi teaches some of these. Ilva is aluin, asparcha is kesef chai. It's raw silver. I'm not sure when you mine it what it looks like. Martacha is nipsoilos hakesef. When they mine silver, they pour it when they smelt it, and somehow that whatever evaporates from it, that's what we're looking for. And chamursa the pilon is a button shanoshim toilos b'tzaverim shel zov shel kesef. They wear this type of jewelry, and in it they put v'noisen b'shemen shemur by min boisim shesmai pilon. So that's what we're talking about. We want the pilon stuff as part of it. The shaifa, the chamimusa, and Rashi said that means tsoyas yoinim. It means the tsoya of birds, and then it says v'ninkoit. You should take all of this and bisachi de kisna in a worn out begel of kisoines, because that is cotton is comfortable in the winter. That's if it's in the winter, but that's if it's in the summer. I'm sorry, because cotton is light, it's good for the summer. Uda amar gufna, and made out of more of a heavier wool material. The sitva in the fall, winter, when you want to stay warmer. The Eloi, then the cotton. Okay, shkoyach. The Eloi, but they're both things that grow, not things like a sheep. Okay, not wool. Okay, right. Okay, yeah. The Eloi, and if you can't do that, list the shichra marka, drink watered down beer, that will help. The Baltic. Zoktimer Lishigruna. What should you do if you're suffering from an ailment called shigruna? So what is shigruna? Rashi says, Chayli hayirechaim bakal boises shkarin hinke. I guess you're limping. You have pains in your joints. Lishigruna, lesi pasya dumanini. What you should do is you should bring kli male sir dogim tanim, a keli that's full of fish juice, vinigdere shitin zimni, and you should aha matchasa. Yegalgalu shishim pamim al yerech selamayla b'chaboshus. You should rub it, roll it on your leg 60 times. Ahamat chasei, v'shishim zim ahamat chasei, and that'll take care of your joint pains. It's almost like an injection of, what do they inject usually? Cortisone, like a cortisone injection. Litzmirta, if you have an ailment called smirta, which is Evan Hagdela Begit, this is a urinary tract stone. This is a bladder stone. It doesn't let you go to the bathroom. So this is a cool story. Nesi Tlas Nitufaisa Mishcha de Kufra. You should take 3, Rashi says, you should take 3 drops of itron. It's some part of the tar. It's some byproduct of tar, some type of fuel. It's a strong type of fuel. It has a strong smell to it. Okay. Utlasnu to faisa into the case, and also 3 drops of juice from a cress. Utlasnu to faisa, and 3 drops of chamra nikida, of pure wine. I believe that's what chamra nikida is. And what should you do with it? A person should inject it like through a catheter into his urinary, I don't know what it's called, that canal. A woman, she should put it over there where her urinary tract is. If you can't do that, una de zika, this is an interesting one. Una de zika, take an oizen shalnoid, the handle of a jug. Take the handle of a jug. Hang it on the man's git. Hang it on the woman's breasts. That would help too. If that doesn't work, a strand of zahirish. Take a strand of some type of thread that was spun by a woman who everyone is choisher of sleeping around, and her mother also used to sleep around. So find a woman who sleeps around, whose mother also slept around. So somebody who has urinary stones should find. I need to find a zoyna. If you see a guy walking down the street looking for a zoyna, you have to. He's only looking for relief from his bladder stone. It's not always what you think it is. That's right. It's not what you think it is. Right? Okay. The shad say doime bastoima the Eloi, and if not that, take a kina, the zachar in a keva, take a lice. Now there is no gender on lice. So the kina zachar in a keva, Rashi says, is a lice that you pulled off a woman and a lice that you pulled off a man. The little ish ba'ama, and he should, I think the thread is much more pleasant, and he should put it on the man's amma, and then, now's the good part. Now we're going to watch when the stone comes out. You should make sure to go to the bathroom on a bed of nice leaves of a bush. Bitzinura dedasha. Tinura dedasha, Rashi says is where's Rashi over here? Bitzinura dedasha. It doesn't say. What does tinura dedasha mean? What does the article say? That's what she should put in the hole of the door. All right, we had that already. So when he goes to the bathroom, he should go to the bathroom right there in that hole. Make sure to find that stone. That stone is very valuable and very precious. So when the stone pops out, grab that stone. The ma'alya lukulit simri. That's a very, very powerful stone that could be used and dissolved, and it's used for many, many different medicines. So save that stone. Okay. So we'll stop here and we'll be mamshech tomorrow. I'm feeling much, much better after all of these refuahs. So we'll stop here, and now I can tell you a joke that I can't.